So, what if I told you that the key to safely managing the future of AI and warfare isn't some brand new algorithm, but a 2,000-year-old idea from ancient India? Yeah, it sounds a little out there, I know, but it might just be the intellectual guardrail we desperately need for the modern battlefield. All right, let's get into it.
We're living in this incredible moment of technological change, right? Militaries all over the globe are in a dead sprint to integrate AI, trying to gain an edge. They're dealing with these insane streams of data, trying to make decisions faster than any human possibly could. But this race, well, it creates this fundamental tension, this real razor's edge between incredible promise and, frankly, catastrophic peril.
And that brings us to the big, unsettling question of our time. I mean, could a system, a piece of code that we don't even fully understand, make a mistake that spirals into a global conflict we can't take back? You know, the stakes just couldn't be any higher.
It really is this delicate balancing act. On the one hand, AI gives us this immense power. It can spot patterns a human analyst would miss in a million years and run complex simulations in the blink of an eye. But then there's the other side of the coin. The perils are huge. You've got hidden biases in the training data that can poison an algorithm's thinking. You've got this thing called automation bias, which is just a fancy way of saying commanders might start to blindly trust whatever the machine spits out. And maybe worst of all, an AI that's trained on the wars of the past, it could be completely blindsided by a new kind of crisis it's never seen before.
So when you're facing these uniquely modern problems, where do you even start to look for a solution? Well, here's where we're going to take a hard turn. We're going to pivot pretty dramatically from the bleeding edge of technology to the deep, deep past of strategic philosophy.
This line, this really powerful idea, comes from a text called the Arthashastra. It's an ancient Indian guide to statecraft written by a master strategist named Kautilya way back around the 4th century BCE. He called this lamp of all sciences Anvikshiki, and for him, it was an absolutely essential skill for any ruler or advisor. Okay, so what exactly is Anvikshiki? Well, it's more than just thinking hard. You can think of it as a disciplined framework for how to think. It's literally the science of inquiry itself, a structured, repeatable way to scrutinize evidence, to test your own assumptions, and to make sure your decisions are grounded in solid logic and ethics. It's all about asking the tough questions before you act.
And right here, you can see the core of the philosophy in action. Kautilya basically demanded that leaders scrutinize their sources, never ever take information at face value. You have to probe the motives behind the information. You always have to understand the bigger political context. And this is a huge one. You have to embed ethics into your thinking, warning against those risky short-term wins that could lead to a long-term disaster. It's really a masterclass in critical thinking.
So this is where it gets really, really interesting. How can this ancient framework for thinking directly push back against the specific weaknesses of 21st century artificial intelligence?
This chart just lays it out perfectly. You've got an AI that's a black box, right? You can't see its logic. Well, Anvikshiki demands systematic scrutiny. It forces you to ask how it got that answer. Worried about blind trust, that automation bias we talked about? Anvikshiki gives you disciplined skepticism. It trains you to treat the AI's output as just one hypothesis that needs to be tested, not as the gospel truth. What if an enemy tries to feed your AI bad data? The Anvikshiki principle of contestation, which is basically red teaming your own systems, is the perfect defense. And when an AI is just stuck looking at old patterns, human-led contextual integration brings in that deep wisdom of culture and politics that an algorithm just can't get its head around.
Okay, look, this all sounds great in theory. I get it. But the real question is, how do you make it real? How do you actually embed a 2,000-year-old philosophy into a modern military bureaucracy? Well, the source material proposes a pretty clear three-pronged strategy.
It's a huge challenge, for sure. But the path forward really breaks down into three connected parts. We have to rethink how we train our people, how we structure our teams, and maybe most importantly, how we design the tools themselves. Let's take a look at each one.
First up, you have to train the mind. This means blowing up parts of military education and rebuilding them. You're not just teaching doctrine anymore. You're teaching logic, structured argumentation, and how to spot your own cognitive biases. You use these classical texts to tackle modern problems. And get this, you run exercises where the winning answer is to question and maybe even reject what the AI is telling you. You have to make skepticism a professional virtue.
Second, you build the team. You create these little pockets, like net assessment cells, that are specifically designed to fight against groupthink. And you bring in a real diversity of minds. I'm talking not just soldiers and tech gurus, but historians, ethicists, and regional experts.
You make it someone's formal job to find the flaws in the plan, to poke holes in your own assumptions through red teaming.
And third, you have to design the actual tools to reflect these values. The tech has to be built for critical thinking from the ground up. That means human in command is absolutely non-negotiable. It means making the AI's logic as transparent as we can possibly get it. And it means designing systems that show a commander a range of possibilities and confidence levels, not just one single perfect-looking answer. You're encouraging judgment, not trying to replace it.
Now, of course, none of this is easy. Bureaucracies, they resist change. And there's always a risk that people just use these classical ideas as buzzwords. But the ultimate goal here, it's incredibly important.
And at the end of the day, this is what it's all about. The Anvikshiki framework isn't anti-technology, not at all. It's about making sure that as we build these unbelievably powerful tools, we're steering them with our deepest, most timeless wisdom. It's about forging a real partnership, one where AI enhances human judgment, but never, ever gets to supplant it.
And it really all comes back to this one simple, profound idea from Kautilya. It doesn't matter how advanced our technology gets, disciplined, critical reasoning is, and always will be, the foundation of everything we do. So that leaves us with one last thought to chew on. As we build ever more intelligent machines, what if our most valuable, our most decisive weapon isn't a machine at all, but the quality of our own judgment?